Hello everyone, welcome to Stereoscope Now. This is Roger Newcomb. I'm here with Victoria Rowell, iconic actress from Young and the Restless, who filed a lawsuit, I think yesterday, against Sony, CBS, etc. What was the motivation to file the lawsuit now? Because I know you've been speaking out for a long time.
Well, now is a long time for me. Now isn't just now. Now is many, many years back. Under contract, not on contract. It's about advocacy, ongoing advocacy, and the retaliation that I've endured. I've exhausted all other opportunities. We've tried to handle this as my attorney, one of my attorneys, Dan Stormer, I'll reiterate, that we did not want to be litigious. But this is where we are, and this is us going forward.
It's a case where if an actor who played a character like that wanted to come back in any other situation, they would be chomping at the bit to let them come back. Sure. And it's also good for business because fans want to see this. We see the #1 news show on primetime is Empire, which has an African American cast.
Right.
So they're choosing to do this not because it's going to be bad for their business in some way, because it obviously wouldn't be. What do you think their rationale is for doing this?
It's retaliation. It's counterintuitive to business, we know. I'd like to know what show has the characters that the lead character inspired, her husband, her children, storyline that I inspired, such as foster care and adoption, that character still exists. And the only sense is no sense. And it is willful and it's retaliatory. And I will also add to that, it is remarkable, my residuals from repurposed archival footage of myself on Young and the Restless that's inserted into shows, the mention of Drusilla, the attempt to perhaps cast an actress that would be a companion interest for Christophe St. John's character. It is remarkable the extent that we have witnessed to minimize my participation. I know I pulled in an audience share. I know I'm beloved by the fans, and I love them back. And I'm seeking justice not only for myself, but for other African Americans in front and behind the camera.
You know, there are lots of great actors. There's lots of good actors. There's not that many iconic characters in daytime, and Drusilla is definitely one of those.
Well, it's certainly not African American.
Right.
There is not a single tenured African American actress in all of daytime right now, and I believe that's by design. That African Americans are used to pull in an audience, and then we're slid off the grid once that audience is sealed in and repurposed into other storylines. I will not retreat. This is a serious issue.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Cyrus Mary at Mary & Scallett, a law firm based in Washington, D.C. We do civil rights work and other work, and to my right is Dan Stormer, a longtime lawyer for Victoria Rowell, and he's based in L.A. and one of the premier civil rights lawyers in the country. And to his right is Sarah Kane, our co-counsel, who's based here in New York. And to my left is the illustrious Victoria Rowell, and I'm going to say some words about her. Dan is going to talk about the lawsuit, and then we're going to let Ms. Rowell speak for a few minutes. After that, we will take questions, first from the folks here in the room, and then we'll do the folks that are on the phone. So you can start to queue up your questions, and then we'll go to the phone questions. First of all, thank you all for coming, and thank you for participating. As you know, yesterday we filed a lawsuit against CBS and Sony and others for retaliation against Victoria Rowell for standing up and being an outspoken advocate for more diversity in the industry. I just want to talk a little bit about her. She's one of America's true heroines and one of the most talented people in the country. She's had award-winning work across different types of disciplines. Her memoir, Women Who Raised Me, was an award-winning book. Her novels have also been highly acclaimed. She's been a host of things like the Macy's Parade and the Rose Bowl Parade. And she's also very well known, of course, for what she's done in the soap opera and one of the most highly rated programs, Young and the Restless. And she's won multiple, close to a dozen NAACP Image Awards, as well as been nominated for Emmy Awards. But what really draws us to be her counsel and to be advocates on her behalf is how much she's looking out for other people, how much of an advocate she is to open doors for others in the industry. This is an industry where 40% of the viewers are African American women, yet there's no currently lead role for an African American woman in the industry. So we admire her. We see her as someone who's courageous, someone who's standing up to do what's right. And we have started today, this morning, a hashtag called number 4 diversity, and that, I think, highlights what she's about. She's using her name as an actress to advocate for diversity for others. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Stormer to talk a little bit about the case, and then Vicki Rowell will come up here and speak for a few minutes as well, and then we'll take questions.
Good morning. My name is Dan Stormer. Victoria Rowell is an American success story, or rather I should say was an American success story. She went from poverty to being a star. She went from foster homes to being in a Hollywood home. And she did this through the grit that she has to improve herself. All of this came to a grinding halt because of 3 reasons. She had the audacity to have an opinion as a black woman in America. She had the temerity to express it openly, and she had the courage to speak on behalf of people of color. Now, she has tried every avenue possible to not be in this situation. She does not want and did not want to bring a lawsuit. We have met with the defendants in this case. We have attempted to resolve this short of litigation, but they simply will not rehire one of the most talented women in the history of soaps. We're asking that they give her job back, or at least serious consideration. We're asking that they compensate her for the harm that has come about. They, as I said, refuse to rehire her despite the fact that she has a national following. She has won numerous awards, and they have a history of bringing actors back even after they have died or been killed or been put in an insane asylum or all sorts of things, but all of those actors that come back are white. They have blocked the doorway to her success. They've blocked the doorway to her American dream. We had no alternative but to go to court. We have sued Sony Pictures Television, Sony Pictures Entertainment Inc, Bell Dramatic Serial Company, Bell-Phillip Television Production, Corday Productions, and CBS Corporation. 3 of the defendants, Sony, Bell, Dramatic, and Corday, produced and owned the show, while the 4th, CBS, broadcast it and has significant input into hiring and rehiring decisions. This process has put Ms. Rowell in a very, very difficult situation. She has, throughout her career, spoken out on behalf of people of color. She has attempted to make the workplace better for people of color. And the result of it has been retaliation and a refusal to rehire a person who would bring them great strength in the marketplace. And they do so because of their prejudice and their belief that they do not have to rehire someone when they have not acted in the fashion that they felt they should have acted. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Rowell.
Good morning, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is a profound moment for me as an African American woman who wishes to continue to live the American dream. I've always advocated for myself. I was taught to do so after enduring 18 years in foster care, and I advocate for others. I was taught to do so. So this is not about me. This is about myself and many, many other African Americans who have been denied the right to perform in front and behind the camera, specifically on The Young and the Restless. And I'm open to questions.
I have so many questions, but I'll let everybody have a chance. Roger Newcomb was here with Scoop now. What do you think? William J. Bell, who created Young and the Restless, and was a visionary for 25 years. I always spoke really highly of you, and totally loved you, and I know you spoke really highly of him. What do you think he would think about the situation that's happening with the show? This situation, the rotating writers and producers, and he was always an advocate for diversity as well.
Well, I cannot speak to what's happening now, but I know that Mr. Bell looked me square in the face and told me that his African American female viewership, which brought him to #1 in 1988-89, hence why he met with me in 1990, was to hold that audience, that African American audience, and to grow it, which I exceeded that expectation. I'd like to believe that Mr. Bell would have granted me what he granted Meg Bennett, a white actress that became a writer, producer. Many white actors become writers, directors, producers, and I would want to believe that his sons might have adopted that same philosophy in terms of offering opportunities to African Americans. That has not yet happened to the extent that it should.
Michelle Parkerton, Soaps and Death Magazine. I'm just curious if there were ever any attempts to go for roles on General Hospital or Days of Our Lives, and if you were to be rehired, do you have any concerns of it being a hostile work environment after bringing this lawsuit?
I'll answer your last question first. It was hostile while I was there. I've been advocating for diversity since 1990 when I arrived and was told I would be an illiterate thief prostitute. And I asked why. This is a criminalization of African Americans, and I immediately called my agent and requested an on-air adult literacy storyline, which Bill Bell granted. I have sought work on Bold and the Beautiful. Bradley Bell, the Bells own 100% of that show. I have been denied. I have requested to write for Bold and the Beautiful. It has been denied. I have requested to audition for Days of Our Lives, Corday Productions. I was on a list and taken off of the list, denied. Sony produces that show as well and owns 51% of The Young and the Restless. It's an incestuous industry and it has retaliated against me.
So let me see if there are any questions on the phone. If you don't mind just saying who you are and then ask the question, that'd be great.
Thank you. And that's star then 1 on your touch-tone phone if you have a question. 75 for audio questions. And we have a question from Devin Owens from the Soap Opera Digest. Please go ahead.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi.
Are you afraid that your legal action today will make you unhireable in the future?
Devin, the retaliation is deep and broad. I've lived with this retaliation for many, many years. I'm not afraid. I am empowered as an African American woman seeking justice and parity. I am unafraid because I speak not for myself only, but for many people of color, specific to African Americans who are systemically denied the opportunity for due process to compete for jobs in writing, directing, executive producing, head writing. No African Americans as department heads in hair and makeup on Young and the Restless, no supervising producers, no coordinating producers, no costume designers. I would be appalled at my own self and the women who raised me not to stand for justice, that an industry that began in 1930 has not hired a single African American executive producer or head writer. This is an abomination. This is America. So no, I'm unafraid.
Thank you. And once again, that's star then 1 on your touch-tone phone to ask a question.
And if I didn't quite finish that question, Devin, just to add, filing the lawsuit can't make it worse. Yeah, I already cannot get hired as an actress holding the most NAACP Image Awards. I stand here with the Roy Wilkins Award. I stand here with the Madam C.J. Walker Award. I stand here as a former Princeton University Center of African American Studies advisor. I stand here with many, many diverse elements that support my due diligence in front and behind the camera. I'm a New York Times best-selling author, yet I cannot get hired as a director, a writer, an actor, because I speak out on the truth. And as my attorney Dan Storm said, the audacity to speak out on an industry specific, though the dialogue is much broader, on lack of fair and economic emancipation for African Americans in an industry that is exclusionary for decades.
Devin, your line is open.
Okay, Vicki, can you explain in a nutshell what is the legal basis for your lawsuit?
Why don't we have Mr. Stormer address that, if it's okay?
Okay.
There are two primary claims. One is under the Fair Employment and Housing Act of the state of California, and the other is under 42 U.S.C. 1981. In both of those, we are claiming that she's retaliated against because of her speaking out on behalf of issues involving African Americans. We brought it here in New York because that's where the defendants are, and that's where the decision making is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
What more would you like?
Well, it just seems to me that it's, you know, it's almost like an employer's prerogative if they want to hire somebody. I mean, there's no wrongful termination involved in this.
So here's
my curiosity is.
Okay, so in our society, in most states, you can fire anybody for any reason except certain areas of protected classes. So, for instance, race is one of those areas. Gender is another of those areas. Having a disability, there are a whole series. And our allegations here are not that they just, our allegations are that they cannot retaliate against or refuse to hire one of the most accomplished actresses of our time because she spoke out and complained of issues of discrimination in a public forum. You can be an employer and you can fire employees you don't like. You cannot rehire employers you don't like, except for those reasons involving race, gender, disability, age, and a whole host of other areas. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've heard employers say over and over again, well, I'm the employer, I get to decide who gets hired and who doesn't. You know, that is true, except you can't discriminate. And that's the basic principle of our society. We fight discrimination. Discrimination is not allowed. Retaliation for claiming, for speaking out against discrimination is not allowed. Those are fundamental precepts of our society.
We have another question inside the room.
I'm just curious with to add on to what you were just saying. It seems that the entertainment industry is, they are able to hire or not hire solely based on race or gender because of the casting for a particular character. So I was just curious what your response to that.
Well, certainly there is certainly artistic expression. And if you have a character that is African American or Asian or Latino, certainly it is better than it was in the good old days when we had white people playing all those roles. You would have a white person playing a really disgraceful Charlie Chan. There is a level, but if you have positions available and there is a person who qualifies for that, you can't exclude them because of their advocacy of on issues of race. You can't.
And that is the case that you...
And that is absolutely our case here, yes.
Can I address that a little bit? Sure. So, to follow up on that, this is Cyrus Mary. The central claims we have, as Mr. Stormer said, are about retaliation. I also want to talk about your question and the question on the phone. Sure, there's a lot of freedom of expression. We endorse that 100%. But what we're carefully asking for here is serious consideration for Ms. Rowell. Serious consideration, ultimately, we'd like to say, for minority candidates. That increases expression. That increases choices. That's what we're calling for. One other question inside the room. Yeah.
You know, I know you guys have reached out to CBS and to Sony over the course of a long period of time. What is their response? What is their response? We don't want to hire Victoria. We don't want to hire Victoria.
Mr. Stormer, address this one.
Their response is, we hear what you're saying, we understand your complaint, but no, we won't consider it. We spent a period of time discussing it with several of their attorneys, and the response is a pretty blank, no, we're not going to consider your proposals.
I'm interested in the legality of it, because I understand the free expression part of it. I also know, as a lifelong fan of the show, there's no more iconic character, you know, than this. And so, in that situation, as watching daytime soap operas for 40 years, these people, if they have any interest ever to come back, they always come back. And so this is, you know, I try to see both sides of things, but I can definitely see the argument. I'm wondering what their argument is when this is like an obvious situation where you could show millions of examples where white actors came back. What would their legal argument be to refute that?
Their legal argument will be, I assume, that they have a right of artistic expression and can choose whomsoever they want. But here's the reality: is one of the interesting parts about litigating these types of cases is prejudice is one of the few things that will override economics. I have made a career, Cyrus has made a career, in cases where it was in the other side's economic interest, artistic interest, to hire the person, but that prejudice trumps it. And here, the idea that she is an African-American woman speaking out on issues of race is trumping their economic interest.
I was curious what Ms. Rowell's response was to CBS's statement that she was trying to rewrite history.
Well, why don't we ask Ms. Rowell?
I am trying to rewrite history. I'm trying to write history. And I'm trying to write history. So there's a double entendre there, where I'm trying to write history that doesn't exist, that should be there and should have been there decades ago. I wish I could rewrite the horrific behavior that I endured. And I won't go into the entire minutia, but to be spat upon, to be called a freak, to be told no one likes you here, to be told by producers my work is poor, to be fined $20,000 by Sony for an alleged misday of work, to be told to keep price tags in my costumes because they were too expensive, bought for me, and they would be returned. These kinds of things, and many, many more I endured. I wish I could rewrite that history, but I cannot. That history stands, I stand on it for progress, for diversity, for not only for myself, but for the benefit of the industry. You can't write what you don't know. Their ratings are plummeting, and I see an opportunity here. I see a win here, but we can't race forward if we don't talk about race being the anchoring elephant in the room.
One more question. I'm also curious if you spoke with Christoph or Brighton, if you have their support in this.
I will say this. I love working with my castmates. I inspired at least 12 African-American contracts. That means pension, that means retirement, all of that, and medical benefits. That means a lot to me, coming out of child welfare system. I'm also very, very clear about retaliation. And I understand prior sufferings for speaking out. And so I will simply say that there are consequences when you speak out. So I would rather protect those relationships and comment on that.
Thank you.
I just want to see if there's more on the phone. Is there anybody else on the phone who has a question?
We have Lushina Bishop from ABC News on the line. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I was going to ask about that possibility which you did mention, Vicki. But I'm wondering if you feel, given what the world knows now about Sony through emails, some of the views of executives there about African Americans in the entertainment industry, if you feel this is a right time to be bringing this forward?
Thank you, Lucina, ABC. It is a very good time. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a very large dialogue about African American participation in an industry that we participate in for audience draw and for box office and for consumer viewerism. African American spending at $1 trillion annually right now. It's a good time to talk about healing, but more than a mea culpa, talk about real, substantive, multi-year tiered job opportunities in front and behind the camera. And they have the power, if they have the political will. It could really work. Thank you.
Any other questions on the phone?
I am showing no further questions at this time.
Well, we have another question in the room, I believe, right?
You mentioned the spitting incident, and a dear friend of mine, Ellen Holly, who broke a lot of barriers in this industry, she never was given the leading part that she deserved, but she was on One Life to Live for 17 years, and near the end, she was spit on by the executive producer. So this happened over and over and over, and people tend to, or a lot of people, don't believe the claim, or they want to dismiss them, or they don't want to talk about race, or it makes them uncomfortable. Why do you think people are so uncomfortable talking about this even now?
We have, it's a bigger dialogue.
Yes.
Right? And race is an issue, and as I say, we cannot race forward in this nation until we talk about it. It's wonderful that you brought up the legendary Ellen Holly, who told me just 5 years ago, around that time, that what happened to her 30 years ago was happening to me now in terms of retaliation. And I hope that there is expedient change. I'm open to dialogue and wish to see on the set of The Young and the Restless the single black writer perhaps promoted to the first in the history of the soap opera industry to executive producer and head writer. I believe she could bring about substantive change with communion with CBS, Sony, and Bell, and Corday in the future. In the meantime, I turn the mic over to Cyrus. Thank you.
Well, I thank everyone for coming. I just want to turn to my colleagues. Is there anything anybody wants to add? Okay. Well, I just want to say how proud we are of you, Ms. Rowell, how courageous you are, and the shining light you bring to others. And we're so happy you step forward to shine a light on this industry that some people in the room even know. Their track record needs to be improved. So thank you, everybody. And we'll be in touch with us, because this case is going to have a lot of interesting twists and turns, I'm sure, down the road.
So kind of a different topic, but it's Black History Month, and I know you have many heroes, and you've had a fascinating story. Who are your heroes in the entertainment business?
I'd have to start off with Janet Collins, Raven Wilkinson. These are African-American ballerinas. Misty Copeland, American Ballet Theater, which I'm an alum of, proud to say. In terms of film, Oscar Michaud, one of our preeminent filmmakers. In terms of literary categories, I'd have to start with Phyllis Wheatley and Paul Laurence Dunbar. Contemporary writers would be Toni Morrison, Yeah, I have other writers that I like. I do enjoy more of the older category writers, to be honest. Some of my favorite books are The Wench. Of course, I love James Baldwin's works.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.